Live on a Thursday, Sheffield Live TV, as ever, and with a sporting guest. Nice to be in this warm studio. Hope you're somewhere warm watching us. Hot topic just lately on this show has been the number of players who've appeared on both sides of the city, for Wednesday and United, or the other way around. But usually, historically, in recent years, it's been more Wednesday to United. And 3 weeks ago, Lee Bromby, one of those players who'd appeared for both teams, was on the programme, sparked a bit of debate about how many there'd actually been. We thought 26 or 27 at the time. I'm advised now it's nearer to 30, and we've got one of those 30, and one of the best known of those 30, like Lee Bromby was, on the show this evening. A warm welcome to Derek Geary. Good to see Derek. Here on in will become Del.
Yeah.
Because that's how everybody knows you. Yeah. And rather a parallel, because Lee was saying, well, I'm the only guy that's played over 100 games for both Sheffield clubs. Indeed he had. Yeah. Somebody tweeted me to say that Bernard Shaw, way back in the mists of time in the 60s and 70s, had also played 100 for both, so sort of the jury's out. You're very close to that mark, aren't you?
Yeah, I didn't even realise till you told me tonight. I think I only played about, I played about 99, 98 games for Sheffield United. I know I played way over 124 or something for Wednesday, so I think I've missed out by a couple.
Just a couple, or even one. We thought it was maybe 99.
Yeah.
One of our amateur statisticians on Twitter reckoned you played 99, but certainly well clear of the 100 for Sheffield Wednesday, for whom you played between 97 and 2004. Stockport County in the middle, briefly, 13 appearances, and then Sheffield United for 6 years, 2004 to 2010, for whom you played in the Premier League. You had Sheffield Wednesday kind of on the way down, and then Sheffield United on the way up. But that was a bit of a get out of jail card, wasn't it? Stockport County in the middle.
Yeah, it was a bit. I think Wednesday at the time, I think they released something like 15, 20 of us, and obviously at the time, Lee Bromby and Alan Quinn went to Sheffield United, so we was out of contract, and Neil Warnock at the time says that he wants to take me as well, but he says, I'm not going to take frees. He goes, the fans will kill me if I took the frees. And he said, I need a centre back, and he said, I need a midfielder, so I'm looking to take Quinn and Broms. And that's when he says to me, I'd love to take you, but obviously I can't take it. I can't take frees. So that's when Sammy McElroy was at Stockport at the time. He was building a good side and that, and he says, he offered me a contract there, and I went over there, and I think I spent only about 6 weeks there before I ended up going back to Sheffield United. I had a feeling that Neil obviously wanted me at Sheffield United, and I had a feeling that if things change, I think Simon Francis and Rob Kozlak were struggling with injuries at the time. I had a feeling that I might get there if they continued on struggling, and obviously if Quinny and Broms went in and done a good job and won a lot of people over. So the first thing I said to Sammy McElroy is, if anybody comes in for me, will you let me go? And he says, yeah, if anyone comes in for you at a higher level, he says, you can go, no problem. And I didn't tell him, though, that Sheffield United probably had an inkling that they'd be interested.
So this is Neil. There's a bit of strategy in this. So he says, get yourself another club.
Yeah.
And then, you never know, I might come in.
He did, he said, you never know, but I was a bit lucky, really, because about 2 games in with Stockport, we drew Sheffield United at Bramall Lane in the Carling Cup. So I sort of said that this is a bit of a chance here if I play well that night, which I managed to have a decent game. I'd probably get Neil thinking again, hang on, we might want him. And Quinny rang me up the next day and he says, Neil was going on about you again yesterday. And I said, I was like that to Quinny, just tell him I'll come, him I'll come, I want to come. And then luckily enough, a couple of weeks later, I don't think Simon Francis or Cossy's injuries were getting any better. So Neil came in and just, I think they only cost 30 grand or something. And I went to Sammy McElroy, he said no. And I said, hang on a minute, Sammy. I says, you told me you could go if the higher level club came in for me. And he says, yeah, I'll keep to my word. And he says, we've only had you 6 weeks and we've earned 30 grand, so we've not really lost, so we've earned.
It all worked out in the grand scheme of things there. Talk about some of your career highlights, including your only career goal, which is a bit special. We might even fill the entire second half of the programme with Del's description of his only career goal. Mentioning Simon Francis there, hasn't he done well?
He's done really well.
Bournemouth, fantastic.
He had a bit of a rough ride at Sheffield United. I think we all knew he was a talented boy, and it was just a matter, I think, his attitude. I think he'll say himself at the time probably wasn't great. He wasn't towards the game and probably his professionalism. But he left Sheffield United. I think he played in the League One, League Two, and Championship for a few years. And lucky enough, he went to Bournemouth, and he's done really well. He was always going to be a good player. It was just a matter of himself getting his attitude right, and probably his work rate a bit better. And I'm not really surprised because he had all the talent in the world. Where he got
just shows what can be achieved if players get those aspects right.
Yeah, of course.
You know.
Especially some players, they take their talent for granted as well. So you think it's my talent that'll get me there, but ultimately it's your hard work and how much graft you put into it, and how much you're willing to do, how much desire you've got. And if you're willing to do that, your talent will bring you all the way.
You're in a great position now to preach that.
Yeah, I'm used to saying that.
Under 18s coach at Sheffield United.
Yeah.
Enjoy that?
Yeah, I love it. It's obviously it's a different side of the fence because playing for so long, and I have all these experiences, especially in Sheffield, so I can tell them about my experience about playing obviously for Wednesday and United. But it's, as I said, it's a different side of the fence. I'm considering for 20, 30 players now, and when you're a player, you're more got the blinkers on, and you're thinking of yourself and where's my next move? Am I getting a game Saturday? I don't really care who's dropped as long as I'm playing. So you're looking after lads, especially it's a tough time for them as well. As much as it's a great game and every day is brilliant, you're coming in playing football, it's a ruthless business as well, and we are looking for players to play in our first team. So we've also got to help them all and help along the way, and as long as they've given it their best and given it their all and done all they can, that's all I can ask for.
Who are your influences from the managers you've played under when you try to bring these kids along?
I've had a few now, I can't even go through them all. I think as a young lad, when I was in the youth team in Sheffield Wednesday, you look back at the coach, and I was very fortunate when I came over from Ireland. I had some really good coaches who helped me develop with my game. I was never the most talented player, I suppose everyone would say that, but I had the desire and the work rate, and I was willing to do all I can. Clive Baker was there when I first came in, Albert Phelan, Charlie Williamson, Ricky Hill were youth team managers there. Probably the most influential for me, or the biggest impact who had on me personally as a coach was probably Chris Waddle when he managed the reserves at Sheffield Wednesday. I think he was the first coach where I started to think, oh, hang on a minute, I might really have a chance here. He really believed in me as a player, and when you have somebody of that stature and a legend of the game saying you're good enough for our first team, it gave me that extra step and belief to really confidence that I can go on and play in Sheffield Wednesday's first team.
And were you a right back then, or a full back, or further forward? Or
no, I was never. I was at right back. I come over as a right back, and by the time I got into the first team, I ended up more as a left back.
Yeah, it's amazing how. Yeah, that's right, because you play in both.
Yeah,
both positions.
But
it's amazing how many fullbacks have been wingers before they become fullbacks.
I played a bit back home as a winger, but ultimately I was always a fullback. I was quite quick, and I was never really tall enough to go anywhere else. I don't think.
There was a big missed opportunity by Sheffield Wednesday there. I don't know whether you agree. I seem to recall that when they were relegated from the Premier League, and it was an inevitable relegation, Peter Shreves and Chris Waddle were together in partnership, and there was a school of thought, quite logically, that this would have been a good combination to go forward with, because you've got the inexperienced guy that had been a great player, and the very wise, experienced manager figure, and for whatever reason that never happened, did it?
I think you're right there. I think it would have been the obvious choice, and I think it would have been a good choice. Obviously, I played under Peter as well, but I think whatever happened internally and that, I think they decided that not to go with them two. And I know Chris obviously left the club then, and Peter obviously left him. But I think that might have been probably a good decision at the time, especially as you said, a real coach with real experience and managerial experience. And Chris, who obviously has been a legend of the game, but the club obviously decided to go in a different direction.
They did, and it was a difficult job for Paul Jewell, the man that they brought in. He was a bit of a fish out of water in many respects, but a really good guy. I like him personally. I don't know what your experiences were, but he came in and had to sort of kick backsides and whatever, or felt he had to.
He did. It was obviously a tough job for him. He was at Bradford and he'd done really well there, and he's come obviously Sheffield Wednesday, a massive club, and even as a young lad you could see the turmoil going on to Premier League years where they were bringing in obviously big players who were underachieving, and there was obviously big contracts, so the money had to.
He was trying to drive them out, wasn't he?
He was trying to drive them out and obviously get players in, but the big plus for him was we had some really good young players coming through in the youth team. A lot of them made their debut. Obviously me, Alan Brahms, Stephen Haslam was there, Matt Hamshaw, Tony Crane, Chris Stringer was there, Mark Platts, we had Owen Morrison was there, we had real good players that in today's game, if you see all these players coming through an academy, it would have been lauded really, so. But I think at the time, it was a bit too much for us. There were expectations on us to hold the team together. We need experience around us. Paul tried to do that. He brought in a few bit more experienced players, but for how the club was going at the time, I think it was a bit, it was going down that fast. I think it was a bit of a tough job for him to turn it around.
You kids were a great set, but you were in the wrong place,
wrong era,
wrong time, wrong era. Certainly, any other era, and it was just too much for you.
It was.
The team.
I think we played a game against Sheffield United in the Carling Cup match. I think Paul was the manager. I think we had something like 8 or 9 under 18-year-olds playing in the game. That's how it was.
Yeah.
It was a big stretch in us, obviously, to push and get promotion rating, and we were always dangling around the bottom end of the table. Maybe getting a bit more experiences in who would have helped us, but it wasn't to be. And it was probably, I look back on my career now and think it actually helped me really. It was a real struggle at the time, but for me, I was thriving, and I was a young player playing with no fear.
Yeah. Sheffield United have always had most of the time I've had a better reputation for bringing kids through than Sheffield Wednesday, and you could list them for the next 5 minutes here almost. But it's harder now to get kids through at Sheffield Wednesday, isn't it? Because the expenditure on ready-made players, you've got George Hurst trying to knock on the door, so highly rated, and it's very difficult for him to make the next step.
It is, yeah. Obviously they're putting a lot of money to it over there, and they're really pushing towards the Premier League, and the likes of Horsty, it's going to be tough, but he's a really good player. But sometimes I say to the lads, especially at Sheffield United now, it's not easy for them. We've got lot of good players in the first team. Hopefully we get promoted now, and next year they're looking to get into a championship team. I always felt when I was a young kid, the bigger the challenge and the better player ahead of me, the more it brought out in me. So I says, ultimately you get there at the end, like, don't look too much for a pathway, because it's not going to be easy either way. No. And obviously Horsty's got his work cut out on young lads over Sheffield Wednesday and obviously Sheffield United, but I always think to look at the positive side of it really. Okay,
well, let's have a look at who you've got that you're trying to bring through. Any names on top of, well, I'll give you one for starters, say David Brooks. When I've seen David Brooks, I don't know how much you have to deal with him. I imagine quite a lot. Really, really impressed. What a dangerous player he looks. What do you think?
Yeah, he's a really good player. Very technical player. Because he was obviously with the 23s last year. He's moved up and trains with the first team a lot now, and he's there more or less all the time. And really good player, really exciting talent, and I think he's got a real chance of really progressing in the game as well, especially Sheffield United.
How close would he be? Obviously, it's the manager's decision when he brings you. How close for you is he to, say, getting involved in that?
I think Chris wouldn't think twice really that if he needed to put him in, that he could do a job, especially going forward on the ball. He's really good, and the reason why he's training with the first team constantly is because I feel the manager thinks he is good enough. The squad is that big. He's got his own challenges there, but it's up to Chris. Obviously, he picks the team, but I don't think if he had to put Brooksy in, I'm sure that he could come in and do a job, no problem.
And he is training constly with the first team?
He's with the first team all the time.
Is he? Right,
obviously, he's still got Reedy there and that, and a few young lads still in that squad training there. So he's only going to make David a lot better as well, training obviously with the first team every day.
Indeed. I've seen him pop up in 1 or 2 positions, and I'm just wondering what his best one is.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Just anywhere along the front line, really. He likes to find little pockets in between, obviously, the midfield and the forwards, and he gets the ball, turns, runs, and he creates chances and he scores goals. So, but like all young lads, he's got a lot to learn as well, and he's a long way to go, but he's given himself a chance.
Any others? We've seen him, and quite a few supporters, I'm sure, would agree with me that they like what they've seen of him. Any others that really stand out for you?
A few, obviously. There's a lot of good young lads there, and I keep preaching to them, just because you're good, doesn't mean you're good enough. You have to be an elite, really. You have to be the best of the best. But this season we made a few debuts in the cup match. Young guy Regan Slater was captain of the U team. Geordie Hallam played in that game. Joe Cummins played. So we've got a few lads. Harvey Gilmore's on the bench. A few lads really pushing. So there's some good lads, but they're good characters as well.
It's funny, Harvey Gilmore's mum cut my hair recently. I shouldn't be saying that because she'd be horrified looking at it now. It's just about, she happens to work as a hairdresser.
Yeah, she does. He's only saying that the other day. He was trying to leave early because he wanted to get his hair cut. He said, "Mum's cutting here."
Yeah, he'll be very embarrassed now that I've said that. And I've forgotten completely what I was going to ask you. Oh, I know. know, the rivalry, because we had a chat beforehand, and I said, you know, reaction to you coming on has been favourable from both sets of supporters. I didn't have what I've had with one or two, where certain, well, Wednesdayites have had a right go at people who've gone on to join United. As I say, you've had the Stockport buffer in between. But you were saying to me you'd be disappointed if you didn't get any, during your career, when you went from one team to the other, obviously you played against the other team, and what sort of reaction did you get?
Yeah, obviously I was at Wednesday a long time. I was a young boy there and I grew up and I played a lot of games there and enjoyed myself there, and I'm grateful they gave me an opportunity in the game. And you see the passion of the club and the passion of the city, so you realise then, when I did obviously eventually go to Sheffield United, I don't think I was never going to get a good, from Wednesday fans on the street, they're never going to go up and say, oh, good luck at United, I hope you do well. And obviously it was going to take a bit of time to win the Sheffield United fans over. And as I said off air, I says, I was a fan as well, and I still am a fan. And if I went, if one of my players went from my club to my biggest rivals, I wouldn't expect to, I wouldn't give him go all the best, I hope you do well for my biggest rivals. So I'd say,
so you'd be disappointed,
I'd be disappointed
if you didn't get that stick and that bit of banter.
Of course,
or as long as
And even when I went to Sheffield United, I think it was usually when the first player, when you join, and I was subbed that day, we played Plymouth, I remember, and I warm up and usually you jog towards the fans and you get applauded, and I think I was getting a bit of stick from one or two of them, but it's what I wanted. I thought, this is it. I said, these do for me, because this is the challenge that I want. I don't want it to be easy, and I don't expect it to be easy. Why should it be? I played for the biggest rivals for a long time, and I said, this is a bit of a challenge. What a challenge it will be to win these over, because if I win these over, it means I've done something right, so I enjoyed it.
You did.
Well, yeah,
you certainly did.
I did, yeah.
It helped that you were one of three. But,
it did, and it helped that they were doing well before I got there, so as well.
Yeah, we'll give him a chance. The other two have done all right.
Yeah. And then obviously when I played for Sheffield United, I went back to Hillsborough. I got a bit of stick that day, but
so I take it you wouldn't appreciate anybody leaving Celtic to join Rangers?
No. That's definitely a no.
That's your team, isn't it, Celtic?
That's my team, yeah, Celtic.
You're from Dublin. You've been over here a long, long time now. But another thing you said, and sometimes I wish we were on air earlier than we are. You said to me, you'll need subtitles tonight.
I still haven't. I still have quite a strong accent, so.
No, you do. Perfectly understandable. What do you make of things at the moment then in the two caps? How involved do you get with the first team, if at all, at Sheffield United?
Yeah, obviously we train beside them, and that we train on the top pitches, so we'll obviously walk up, and some of our lads will go train with their team as well. So, and I speak to Chris, and I speak to obviously Alan Nils there as well, and it's just what I tend to do, Alan, is because I'm new to coaching, I go around and just feed off everybody really.
And annoy everybody, yeah?
Yeah, probably, yeah. Just getting experiences and trying to develop.
He's very inclusive, Chris Wilder, from what I hear. He likes to embrace the whole lot.
Yeah, he is. He's a real... He's a players manager as well, so he's got a real and he knows what the club's all about. Obviously, everybody knows his history with the club. He's got the same feelings with the club, probably more so than what probably I have, because he grew up as a Sheffield United fan, and he's got a real passion for the club, and you can see that. Not just obviously you see it on match days, we see it every day, and he's definitely he's got the club going in the right direction. And he's definitely the right man for the job. And anyway.
Okay, well, in part two, which is coming up shortly, because we've almost raced through part one, the first half, we'll look at the way things have changed in the treatment of apprentices, and you're bringing through kids, and how the technique of that, as with all the red tape and all the political correctness, may have changed from the time when you were an apprentice. I'm sure it has radically, dramatically, and also something else we were talking about beforehand, how insular players of all ages seem to be, and not as outgoing as in your time.
Yeah. It's definitely, it's like it's the current era, isn't it, kids? And
it's because, during the break I'll be that to you, because I'll be looking at this and we're just going through this, seeing what they've been saying about you and all that kind of thing, then telling you. And what else? And we're looking ahead to the next games for the two Sheffield clubs. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday back in action at Bristol City on Tuesday night. So one or two little blips lately, but generally speaking, one defeat in 7 ain't bad. And Sheffield United, bit of a shock, 1 point from out of 9. But every team has a little mid-season wobble now and again. And that's Wimbledon, isn't it, a week on Saturday? James Gregg will join us. Your club, your team, your sport. We'll get a mention from James, and with Mr. Geary. See you in 5.